Hi, welcome to Drama Means Podcast. Today we'll be talking about the 2023 Japanese sci-fi crime thriller, Code Japan, Price of Wishes. Today, drama means half-baked concepts, drama means losing touch with reality, and drama means artificial intelligence.
So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, wanted to do a little bit of a summary about Code Japan. So Code Japan surrounds the main character who is, I don't even remember his name and I don't care.
Ninomiya.
He is a terrible, awful, really bad police detective who proposes to his girlfriend and finds out she's pregnant. It's the happiest day of his life until she dies in a terrible elevator accident, but not so fast. He doesn't think her death was an accident. But no one will really look into it. There's no evidence. There's missing footage. It's a mystery. What happened? And suddenly a friend texts him and says, hey, there's this app, and it will grant you any wish you want. And of course, after much deliberation, he decides, much deliberation meaning about 3 minutes of screen time, he decides he's going to make a wish on this mysterious app because he wants to know who killed his fiancée.
Yuka.
Yes, she has a name apparently too. And the story kind of goes from there. Now, the deal with the app is that it allows you to ask a wish and it grants you a wish, and then you're required to do a mission. And the mission you cannot say no to. Because if you do say no, the app will kill you. Okay. That's the summary.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with.
So, I would have dropped this so fast after episode 2. And honestly, there's not that many episodes of it. It's like 10 episodes, but watching 2 episodes was pulling teeth, and I really did not want to watch it. But then, Ryan's wise idea of hate watching this drama, I continued to ignore it. But Ryan decided to watch it, only to really piss him off and give him a headache.
I just wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to see if it was able to salvage anything. Sometimes I think there's bad shows or bad movies that have like a good concept or a good core to them that you could say, oh man, if they would have just done XYZ right, this could have been good. And there's actually some really good action sequences in it, or there's something really clever about it, or there's an interesting twist that I hadn't seen before. So I was holding out the minutest amount of hope that this thing would surprise me with something worthwhile to make watching 10 episodes not be a complete waste of time. Well, I'm happy to report I was wrong.
And I'm always right. But, so, as you can see, this episode is your rant episode, your hate watch episode. And honestly, I'm not sure I'm going to have too much to say about it, but this is for Ryan, so he can rant and rave.
So the first thing we'd like to say is that usually where we start with what we liked about a drama, the acting or the story or there was nothing. So we're going to skip that section of what did we like. And we're going straight to ripping this stupid thing apart. Enjoy. So there's a lot to talk about because this show was so bad. And the show was so bad in basically every aspect. Like it was melodramatic. It was over the top. It was clever, like wannabe. Like it was like stupidity disguised as clever. Like you could tell the filmmakers and maybe even the actors like, okay, here's the clever scene where we're building to something really cool. And it just wasn't. It was really dumb. Like if you thought about it for 10 seconds and usually not even that long, you were like, yeah, but that's not clever. That's like the opposite of that. But the first thing I really want to talk about is, do these filmmakers and writers understand what police do? Because these are the world's shittiest cops.
Yeah, I was so, like, I've complained about this over and over again with, like, past, cop dramas that we've talked about, or maybe we haven't talked about it, but I just hate it when it's like, they do such stupid things to supposedly work for the plot, but then it's like not even what humans would do. Like, no human would actually be like, oh, maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but like, literally, he's a cop and he's handed a silver briefcase to just leave it in a random parking garage. And he doesn't even bother to think, maybe I should check what's inside this suitcase.
Right, it was one of his missions, his early mission after he makes his first wish. It's like, okay, here's a briefcase, take it to an underground parking garage, and then leave. No questions asked. And as a police officer, he doesn't even think, is this drugs inside? Like, what is this mysterious case I'm dropping off in the middle of a parking garage and then walking away? Like, what could it possibly be?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, if you're a random civilian and you have to complete a mission, sure, maybe you wouldn't look into it, or maybe you're like, oh, I don't want to get involved or whatever, but you still do it because you're supposed to. Maybe I can buy that. I don't really, because I think in this day and age, 2023, anyone handing you a random suitcase and telling you to deliver it somewhere without like any questions asked, any moron would be like, hey, I don't know, this feels really shady and I don't think I should do it, right? But like, in their fucking world, a police officer decides that's a-okay to do.
Well, it brings up another good point, because you think about like just normal human beings, like they're treated as lemmings in the show, whereas you get a text, you've made a wish, then you get a text and says, hey, do this, go to this place. And for how many times we saw on screen, those missions were like crazy. It was like, frame a drug dealer, like do like a swaparoo in the middle of a gang war, and take this gun somewhere and rob someone, or hit someone with a truck, presumably. Like, that was somebody's mission, was to run someone over with a truck. And everybody did those missions just kind of like, okay. Like, they were brainless robots. Like, every human being using the app, the only way this app would ever work, like, I think the idea with this show is they're trying to show us a world where, imagine a world where there's an app that can grant you any wish, but then you have to do anything it says. And they're trying to make us believe this world could exist. Yes, this world could exist if every person in the planet was a mindless robot who just did what they're told. Like, you wouldn't question it for a second. Like, even if you were, I don't care what you do for a living, I don't care how intelligent you are, I don't care if you're a high school dropout or a homeless person, like, someone hands you a case and is like, hey, go drop this off in the middle of somewhere. You're not gonna be like, why? Well, what if it's a bomb and I've just been the person, like, I'm the one holding the bag? Like, it feels like a very scapegoat type activity. Anyone would just go, wait a minute, why would somebody not just, it's such a simple mission, why wouldn't someone else just do it? If this is so simple, what's the catch? I think we're all looking for the catch. No one in this show ever was looking for the catch. They were just like, no, I can ask amazing wishes and then just mindlessly follow directions.
Yeah.
But coming from a cop, it's extra insulting.
Yeah. And like, the thing is, they also labeled him as like a good cop. Like, not a good cop, but like a cop that's like good at his job. And then they proceed to show how bad he is at his job.
The entire cop work of the entire show consists of him walking up to people who he thinks are the bad guys and says, are you the bad guy? You better tell me the truth. I want the truth. Are you the bad guy? What are you doing? That's all of his police work. And then they either lie to him or they tell him the truth. That is literally all the police work he does in the entire show. Is ask people if they're a bad guy and ask people to confess. And literally all the way up until the last episode, his plan is like, I just gotta like confront the mastermind and get him to confess. Like, that's the plan? We've gone through 10 episodes and your main plan is get the super supposedly brilliant mastermind bad guy to just openly confess and give himself up and go, you know what? Now that you asked nicely for the 6th time, yeah, I've been killing people with the app. Oops, I guess I should go to jail now. Like, is that how cops work in Japan? I hope not.
I literally don't think that this their version of cops on the show exists.
I really hope not.
So literally, like, he gets some evidence, right, that this guy, his higher up is like a corrupt cop, right? And literally, like, you're expecting, him to hold the evidence, and it's like, there's this is Chinese saying where you don't hit the grass to alarm the snake, right? And that basically is like, if you alarm the snake, they're either able to run away and you can't catch it, or it's going to come and, like, kill you, right? It'll bite you and you'll die. So that's why you don't want to alarm the snake. And it's the same thing, and it's used to, like, like, you don't want to, until you get, like, some hard evidence or some kind of way to prove for real that this person is the bad guy or the corrupt cop, you don't just lay out all your cards, right? So, but his whole thing was, oh, let me just ask him. And I get sad because I thought I had a relationship with him, but he should just tell me the truth.
But just think about it for a second. If the writers would have done that, and he were to do his due diligence, like, okay, he sees on video that his boss let the elevator guy, the guy who sabotaged the elevator and killed his fiance, into the room. Like, his boss was there that night, let him into the police station, and that guy killed his fiance, right? Well, first of all, wouldn't you just check the guy's alibi? Like, would you be like, hey, so, like, where were you Tuesday night? Oh, you were at home? Well, your neighbor said your car wasn't home. So now you've caught them in a lie. Now you can start to interrogate. That's how interrogations work. You paint people into a corner. You go in with all of the information so that ultimately in the show, when it turned out that piece of evidence was fabricated, his boss wasn't guilty because it was faked. His boss was like, no, I told you I was at home, or I was bowling that night, and there were witnesses, like, but they couldn't go down that rabbit hole because then they would have had to justify, like, wait, why was to make him look guilty, like, why was the guy lying about where he was, and why couldn't he explain it? So it made him look guilty on the front end, but not guilty. Like, there was so much logic problems that they just skated over so fast by just not answering it and just making him stupid. You're like, oh yeah, because if he would have had to been a good cop in those beats, the whole story falls apart. And so now the story is relying on its characters to be stupid in order to prop up the plot, which is the first sign that you're doing something very wrong. If you're in the writer's room and you're like, oh, characters have to now no longer behave like humans, because if they start to behave like humans, our plot doesn't make any sense. You're doing a shitty story. Stop it. Abandon that story. Go somewhere else. Go do something else with your story because it's not working. Because I've seen it a million times where I was like, well, then, like, oh, he'll run into the burning building. I'm like, but why? There's firemen there. Why would he do that? Well, we want that scene where he, like, carries her out of and it's heroic. I'm like, I know you want that scene as a writer, but the character isn't behaving like a human to give you that scene. So you can't have it. You are not allowed to have it. And that is this whole show. They're not allowed to have any of these scenes because none of their characters behave like human beings in order to get them.
Yeah. So, Ryan owes me a big something or other because he made me finish watching it.
Listen, payback is going to be a bitch because there's some shows that I don't like so much that you continue to watch. Just saying.
But I don't make you watch it.
No, I just flat out refuse to watch it. You didn't have to finish this one. I could have watched it on my own. I could have finished it. You just happened to be in the room while I was finishing it. Just like the stupid one you're watching, which we'll remain nameless because I'm sure we'll talk about it later, and I'll be like, yeah, that was stupid, and I didn't want to watch this one.
I liked it.
Okay, but we're talking about Code Japan.
Okay.
So the next thing I want to talk about is kind of the cardinal sin in any movie that gives us big twists or big plot turns, and I guess thrillers. Like, if it's counted as a thriller, we're expected to have big turns and character reveals and, really keep us on the edge of our seat. And here is one of the greatest sins of all of that. If by the end of your story, your main character has done nothing to affect that final twist or that final, like, knife in the bad guy, like, your character has done nothing to earn that, meaning Your character could have done nothing, could have literally sat on his couch and watched the drama next to you, and the bad guy would have still gotten taken down. This 100% does that, time and time again. Not only is he a bad cop, he's an ineffective cop. He doesn't do anything smart, he doesn't do anything clever. And at the end, by the end, does nothing in the involvement of taking down the bad guy. The bad guy would have gone to jail if he would have just sat at home and done nothing. Because the AI did it. Like, his own AI turns on him. Like, I totally understand why some writer thought, oh, and then the final moments, this guy's beloved AI turns on him and he goes to jail. I know the writer thought they were so clever of this big ironic, I built this AI machine to change the world, and then the AI turns on him. I get it. But your main character is not the AI. You have to give that to the main character. The main character has to be the one to take down the bad guy. You don't get to give it to the off-screen AI machine. That is freaking insulting to everyone who's watched this piece of shit for 10 episodes. And literally, when you look back, go, oh man, this cop could have laid in bed and cried for the entirety of the show because his wife died, or his fiance. She died. He could have laid in bed and cried. And on this day, at this moment, the bad guy still would have been taken down anyway. What the hell was the point of watching it then? Like cardinal sin, and it happens all the time in writers' rooms where we look for really interesting plot twists, and a lot of times it happens when you give the bad guy a lot, you give the bad guy too much to do, and then you have all these clever twists and turns for the bad guy, and you're like, well, yeah, but what does the good guy do to earn the win? It can't just be clever twists and turns and situations that happen. Like, the main characters that people were rooting for have to affect the end of the show. They have to affect the story so that their involvement was so necessary that you're glad you watched. You're glad you watched and cheered for this character, their journey. And without that, there's no point in drama at all. And the fact that no one involved in this was like, wait a minute though. All I'm really saying is if you're going to use the AI in a big plot twist in a big way at the end, you have to also include Ninomiya as essential to that plot twist and that move. Otherwise, why are we watching his story? There's no point.
And why is it his story? Like, why is he the lead then? Also. And honestly, I'm very pissed that the writer, director, whatever, like, literally doesn't respect the lead character enough to, like, let him do anything, like, that's worthwhile. Like, they don't give a fuck about this character.
No, I can't imagine why the actor wanted to play this role.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine the actor being really excited to be basically a buffoon the whole show. Like, how many times does he, like, walk into a room and to win, only to, like, get his ass handed to him physically, emotionally, like, and then he's just like, oh no, I've been fooled again. Like, leading up to even the very end, I can't remember one of the last plot twists. It was, like, so obvious. And I'm like, oh, are they really going to do this to this poor guy again? Like, oh no, you've sent my partners in to get blown up. I'm like, can't he just win once?
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like, they clearly don't give a fuck about the lead character of the show. It's like, it just makes no sense. It's like, even if they're like, oh, at the end, he has to die, you have to make it worthwhile. Like, why would we want to watch a character just be the stupidest person on earth? Like, I don't understand why anyone would enjoy watching this.
No, what you said first, I think, is right. They have no respect for these characters. Like, they've set up these different, like, sad kind of backstories for everyone. You know, the reporter whose reporter friend went missing, and, you know, Ninomiya's lost his fiance. Like, they've set up all these sad backstories, but then they literally have no respect for the characters going forward. Like, they only really cared about, like, the clever tech and the app. This is literally like an app developer wrote this show.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the first show written by AI, and this shows us the future if shows are written by AI. So, just saying, AI shouldn't write shows.
A little personal agenda.
But like, it definitely, like, if there was one show that I would watch and go, wait, was this written by a computer? It's this one, because it has no respect for any of the humans in it. It only cares about the technology. The only thing the show is trying to make look cool is the app and the AI engine. That's the only thing the show is trying to make look cool. Everybody else looks like a fucking dickhead.
So the writer of the show also wrote this Japanese BL called Keiyaku. I think it was actually a manga and they like adapted it. But again, it was one of those shows that I did, like, I think it was in our first preview episode where I ranked it, right? And it was like, the cop work was so bad. Like, any kind of, like, cop-related things or solving the mystery, it was so convoluted and so just freaking terrible. And the only thing that was good about it was, like, the two characters' interaction. And I think that, like, he couldn't fuck that up because it was based off of a manga and it had to be like that. But then everything else, like all the detective work, all the, like, it was like illogical and like nothing that they did like really made sense to solve the problem or solve the case. And so whoever writes, and he writes a lot of cop stuff. So I'm like, he should really learn what cops do.
Yeah, or get a consultant, man. There's no shame in hiring experts to, like, fill in your knowledge gaps. There's no shame in that at all. I've worked with great consultants through my career, like hospital consultants and cop consultants and spy consultants. And I talked to an x-ray expert on the phone one time for 3 hours because I didn't know anything about x-rays. So, like, there's no shame in, getting some help.
Yeah.
But this has source material too, right? This is not an original.
So I'm not really sure because I know there was a Taiwanese drama called Code, and I assume it's like Code Taiwan or something, but a long time ago, like I don't know what year that was written in, but judging by ratings and stuff, it was also not very good. So I'm not really sure if that was all based on something else, like if it was based off of a book or a manga or something. But yeah, but Code Japan is not the first.
Yeah, so maybe only some of the blame has to go to these particular filmmakers, and that someone else came up with a concept that they then conned off into people buying and convinced them it was good. But I totally get the idea. Like, when we're in the room pitching, we're pitching like, okay, like, what is new in society? Like, what is everyone obsessed with? And everyone is a little app crazy. Like, everything has an app. It's almost been cliche where it's like, oh, there's an app for that. Like, literally everything. So I get the idea of, like, wanting to incorporate that into kind of this murder mystery and, like, oh, what if you had an app that did this? And, like, I get the want to do the concept. And normally I would say, oh, strong concept, but weak execution. I don't actually think it's a strong concept. I think this is a stupid concept. And I think it goes back to, like, it only works if all humans behave like mindless robots. Like, literally no one can just go, should I look in the briefcase? Like, it just requires everyone to be so stupid. And trust me, I know a lot of stupid people are in the world. And we live in a time where it feels like you see so much stupid things going on in the world. So you're just, oh yeah, people are so dumb. But people are also selfish and really care about their self-preservation. And I don't think would put themselves into harm's way because an app told them to do it. Especially if it looked like you were the one left literally holding the bag.
Yeah. So I think the show was trying to make a statement, like 1984, the book was trying to make a statement, right? It's just like in this instance, with Code Japan is, it's just they didn't think it through enough. I don't think they did not make anything work. Like nothing works. And it's just, the statement is like not strong enough, because since your product is so badly made that your statement goes like washed away down the drain because you didn't give a fuck about anything else. Like, you're a writer, you should care about the story more.
No, but I think that's all they cared about. But they didn't care about the story as far as the character journey was concerned. They cared about the story as in, ooh, how do we make these things get glued together? How do we make this story move forward, this plotting move forward? And again, you disrespect your characters and your actors who are playing these characters by making these humans not behave like humans anymore, because it serves the story you want to tell. And that's why I say I don't think it's shoddy execution. I just think it's a shitty story. It's not a story that should have been told, needed to be told. Yeah, like in a 3-sentence pitch, maybe like you get excited about this. But once you dig down into like, wait a minute, so you're telling me this app, and you really start analyzing how this world would have to work and how these characters would have to act to give you that 1984 like cautionary tale vibe. And the answer keeps being, well, if human beings had no conscious thought whatsoever, this could work. You're like, but he's a cop and he's a detective and he just falls down this rabbit hole so easily. And the funniest moment in the whole thing to me was deep into the show. I think it's episode 9 or 10. And they're like so deep into it, by the way. And there's some logic flaws about this whole piece of it. The reporter guy, who's been kind of following along and is supposed to be kind of one of the smart characters, and also doesn't really do anything smart. He like goes into the bathroom and he's like at the end of his rope, right? He just wants to take down the bad guy, and he like logs on to use the app to like make a wish, which is basically like, okay. And like he has this moment where it's like, should I use the app? And then heroically decides not to use the app. And I'm like, that moment is so comical at that point, deep into the show. Like they've watched the app destroy everyone's life. And also, let me just say, if you build an app that grants wishes, if someone's wish is to either have access to the creator to possibly arrest him, which they no shit do. They no shit ask the app, hey, we want to be the big bad's bodyguards tomorrow. And then the app that this guy created is like, okay.
It was so ridiculous when they like pretend to go into like the office, right? And it's like literally their faces have been seen all over through this app, right? And it's so like this Mia has been like, the missions of other people playing this app is to kill Mia. So it's like his face is everywhere, right? And like the reporter, and he's like being watched like 24/7, and who he interacts with. So the reporter, like, they know he's been hanging out with the reporter. They know he's been hanging out with the hacker girl. They know he's been hanging out with like...
Well, the other woman who was like used to work for the app, who was like a monitor for the app, and then now it's like, well, they don't know what she looks like, so she can go in undercover. Like, well, how? How
do they not know what she looks like?
But also, how does the app not go, nah, brah, you can't make that wish. I wish to destroy the app. Nah, it's kind of like how the genie says you can't wish for more wishes. Like, there's... Like, how on earth did no one go like, is it weird that the app is... Like, the app can see what we're doing, right? And is okay with us like, we'd like to destroy the app. Wish approved. But you have to take this briefcase somewhere tomorrow. Like, what? Like, I jumped out of my chair when they were like, we want to be Ichikawa's bodyguards tomorrow, which is the guy who created the app. Because they can't have access to him. They can't get to him to their brilliant plan, get him to confess. They can't get close enough to get him to confess, so they're going to use the app to wish themselves close enough to corner him. Really? Like, why not? Why didn't they in episode 1? This is my question to the writer. Why then, in episode 1, did he not wish, I wish this app to be destroyed? If the app is okay with granting the stupidest wishes on Earth, why can't he just ask that? Or at least why didn't he try? If he knows it's a menace, why doesn't someone just go, I wish code wasn't a thing? Wish granted. Great, game's over. Episode 1, let's all go fucking have cake now.
Yeah. Or at least even like his wish of like, who murdered my fiance, right? And it's like, why didn't he say, like, catch all the people involved that murdered my fiance? Like,
no, again, that's what I'm saying with the concept, is that the concept has to work. The only way the concept of this show works is if the humans in it behave exactly as the writer wants them to behave. So he can't ask a complicated question. Like, why didn't he just wish that the culprit got arrested? Like, I wish the culprit that killed my wife was to get arrested. Then that wish would have been granted, and the guy would have been sitting in the interrogation room. Instead, he just asked who he was, which gave him some vague CCTV footage. But again, that's the writer going, well, he can't ask for that because then it screws up my plotting. If that's your answer as a writer, you suck. Mm-hmm. Or you're just writing a bad story. We all write bad stories. We all have bad ideas that sound good in our head and they come out of our mouths. And that's the point where we have to go, ooh, that was a bad idea. Like, I'm the king of that, of going, oh man, this is great in my head. And then I say it out loud and I go, oh no, that didn't come out right at all. So either needs to go back in your head and reformulate it, or you need to jettison the idea because it sucks. And I'm going to give you a little hint. This is free writer advice. When someone has a question like that, a logic question, is, well, why doesn't he just wish for more wishes? You have to answer that, which is why it's in Aladdin. It's why that line of dialogue exists, because at some point in the chronological wish fulfillment genie with the 3 wishes, someone said, well, why wouldn't you just wish for more wishes? Well, you have to make that a rule. You can't do that. Because otherwise, the fact that someone would go through the whole movie and not wish for more wishes makes them stupid.
or my wish is to not ever have to do missions.
Right. Like, we can come up with 20 of them right now that make no sense, of like, I wish to never have to do missions again. Like, that would be a paradox that the AI wouldn't know how to deal with, because if it granted that wish, it could never make you do a mission again. Therefore, you could have as many wishes as you wanted without ever doing a mission again. And they even set it up. It was weird because they set it up and I kept waiting for it to happen, where they would put their wish into the app and then it would kind of like, a little spinny wheel would come up and then it would say, wish approved. And I kept waiting for one of their wishes to get denied. Like, I wish they would have wished to eliminate code, and code said, wish not granted, try again. And you're like, okay, so at least you now have asked and answered that, so that I'm not just here saying like, why doesn't he just do that? Because it's so illogical the way these people are behaving in the show. Okay, so now we're going to do something we don't normally do. We're going to go straight to Viki. We're going to read some of the reviews on Code Japan, because shockingly, at the time of this recording, Code Japan is rated 8.3 out of 10, and I have to ask why. Like, were you mind blown when you saw it was 8.3 after watching this?
Yeah. Like, that also makes me, like, not trust anyone.
I will never trust a review on Viki ever again if this is 8.3. Let's go through a few. And no hate to any of these people. You're allowed to like whatever you want to like. I just kind of want to understand it. So the first review says, I enjoyed the show. It's a bit dark. It was too dark to binge, they basically say. There are holes in the logic of the storyline. Yeah, you think? Holy smokes. Everything that was revealed in the last episode was 100% expected due to the clues. Yeah. That means it was bad. It was not a 9. Like, you rated it and you said there was logic, holes, and everything in the last episode was basically already revealed, and you gave it a 9. You are really nice. You're a really nice human being, and I wish you well. Honestly, I'm giving this a 10 right now to offset those decidedly low ratings because of there's no subs in their language. I wish there was no subs in my language. I would have enjoyed this more if I watched it on silent. So I would have given this a much higher rating had there been no subs in my language. So you're giving this piece of crap a 10 because other people didn't like it because they didn't have subs. And for those who didn't have subs, count your blessings. This review contains a spoiler. I don't want to read that one. It's probably too long. Hey, there are reviews in other languages, so seems like it was in a few languages. Finally a review after my own heart. A 1 out of 10. Tons of holes in the logic and story. And I might have given it a couple more stars, but just such a lame ending. I agree with you. Thank you for confirming that some people still have taste. 10 out of 10. Excellent. This is a testament to what the world is turning into with the criminal elements. What? But I don't doubt there are people that really did watch this going, oh yeah, cautionary tale. That I'm like, really? So if you just got a briefcase, you would just wander around Tokyo with a frickin' briefcase and just drop it wherever the app told you to? And also, like, this thing is so, at the same time, I think we touched on this a little bit, it's so, like, omnipotent and knows everything, yet doesn't know enough to not let them go undercover. Like, at the same time, it's all-knowing and completely stupid. Like, the app itself can't decide whether it's smart or stupid. Luckily, we have brains as humans and we can decide that this show is stupid. It's not a 10. Sorry, you're wrong. While having a wish fulfilled can be nice, creating an app like such and allowing AI to modify it at its will can anytime turn against its creator. Yes, I get it. I get the concept. These people are so stuck on the concept, they didn't watch the show. So you're giving it a 9. 9 out of 10 for me. Maybe in a sequel, I will find out what happens after. No one cares. If they do a sequel of this, there's no amount of money you could pay me to watch this. But if there's a sponsor out there that wants to make us try and officially sponsor the Drama Means podcast and make me watch a sequel, we'll consider it. Great crime thriller mystery, 10 out of 10. And then in their review, they put 10 stars. You were really high when you watched this. Oh, wow, amazing, very interesting. What happens next? Let's just break that one down. Oh, wow. I was expecting you to be like, oh, wow, what a piece of shit. Amazing, no. Very interesting, no. What happens next? No one cares. Here's one I can actually get behind. Nice series, just the soundtrack and music doesn't fit much. I mean, he went real deep to, like, criticize the show. He went all the way to the soundtrack to give it a 7 out of 10. It's like, no, I love the show, but the soundtrack took off a few stars. Really? The giant plot holes and characters decidingly being the stupidest humans in the world, like, that didn't bother you, but the soundtrack was a little off? 7 out of 10, that's harsh review to me. 8 out of 10, this sci-fi mystery drama crime series had its moments. If having its moments gets you an 8, again, these people are nice. These people are really nice. And people who are like, I like the show but not the ending, 10 out of 10. Guys, I don't know if you understand what 10 out of 10 means. That means perfect. That means amazing. So if you didn't like the ending, the show isn't 10 out of 10. Stop reviewing things 10 out of 10 when big pieces suck. Like, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, where people are like, oh my gosh, this restaurant, 5 stars. Except, like, I didn't like the appetizers, and then the thing came out late, and the service wasn't that good. And you, like, start asking them about their experience, and it's nowhere near a 5. And I'm like, well, then why did you why did you refer this to me? You sent me to a shitty place and called it a 5 out of 5. All right, one more. Let's find a good one. It's good with this code. It is horrifying. The only thing horrifying about this drama is that it existed. And I'll leave you with that.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that, our ranking is going to be super low. I literally don't know what I could rank it. Don't think I could rank it more than throwing up buckets. Like, it is just throwing up buckets for me.
I would like to take something away from this and not give it a 1 out of 10. Like, I would love to be able to take something and go, well, they did this really well. But I cannot overstate how much at every moment that I thought I couldn't be more disappointed in this. And then they disappointed me again. All the way up until the last moments of the show. And I'm like, I didn't think you could betray me even deeper. So it has to be throwing up buckets. There's just nothing else to be said about it. Like, it is, if you haven't watched it already, do not put yourself through it. And if you have watched it already and you loved it and it's your favorite show, I'm sorry, we just have a difference of opinions, and that's fine. But my God, I never want to go through that again.
Yeah. Like, literally, they had this one person that he was trying to go talk to, and they literally killed him right in front of his eyes and got away. And he's just, like, lost and like, oh no, this person I wanted to talk to died. Like, in front of my fucking face, and he was murdered in front of my fucking face. Like, just so bad. Like, I don't know how anyone could rate this more than throwing up buckets. It literally is just, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, and I literally did the last episode. I think I watched the last two together, like back to back. And the last two, I literally had a headache after watching it because it literally blew my mind in such a bad way.
Like, how could it be so bad?
And at the opening, when we said, drama means artificial intelligence, I think this is the definition of intelligence being artificial. Because I do think everyone involved with this thought they were being clever. And they thought they were giving us this 1984 cautionary tale of technology and humanity. And they thought they were making all these statements. But along the way, they forgot to make a coherent television show. So the recommendation this week is not something obscure. It's something you've probably heard of. It's a very famous book that now has a sequel and was a very famous movie, I think even directed by Steven Spielberg. But I want to talk about the book because I think the book did what this drama was trying to do. It takes this kind of look at technology, in this case virtual reality instead of AI, like Code Japan. It takes a look at the technology and goes, well, what if? What if this was a world we lived in? And then adds a fun gameplay element to it and a kind of mystery and a caper and all these sort of things. Put together with a protagonist who we care about. And of course, if you haven't guessed it already, I'm talking about Ready Player One. The book is written by Ernest Cline. I highly, highly recommend the audiobook read by Will Wheaton, who is referenced in the book many, many times because the author and the characters are big Star Trek nostalgia fans. And if you haven't seen the movie, definitely go either listen or read the book first. And if you have seen the movie, the book is still worth it. They do the world so much more interesting. And you get to kind of paint the picture for yourself in a fun way. And I think the challenges are better. The character interactions are better. I think the characters are smarter in the book than they are in the movie. And Ready Player 2 is already out, also on audiobook and in paperback, I believe by now. Also worth a listen because it kind of dabbles into some big questions about what immortality is. And so it's a really good example of what happens when someone goes, I wonder how technology is going to affect our future. I wonder how virtual reality, if we all plugged into this virtual reality device, would change the world, and how it could be harnessed and how it could be used for good and bad and everything in between. And so where Code, I thought, was a horrible example of that, Ready Player One and Ready Player Two are fantastic examples of it. If you haven't read them, give it a shot.
And that does it for this episode. Thanks for listening to Drama Means Podcast. And we will see you next week. We will try to find something that we like more and talk about that.
We're going to bring the positivity next week.
Yes.
Thank you.
See you next week.